Takatso Aviation saying that the new renegotiated transaction structure for the purchase of 51% of SAA introduced unacceptable levels of risk and uncertainty. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan yesterday announced that the deal with Takatso to buy a majority shareholding in SAA had been called off. Now, Takatso says the magnitude and the materiality of the proposed changes had made it clear that the transaction would possibly need to be resubmitted to the Competition Tribunal. Another stumbling block was resolving the issue of minority shareholders as directed by the tribunal. Now, let's get reaction. We are now joined by NUMSA National Spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi-Majola. Phakamile, thank you so much for your time. Now, you've been very vocal as NUMSA over this particular matter, especially around the secrecy as it pertains to how this deal was structured and what it really contained and entailed. I mean, even parliamentarians, we know, struggled to have Minister Gordhan make certain documents public. Just your thoughts on the termination of this deal?
Thank you so much for having me on the channel. NUMSA is very, very happy that this deal has been terminated. As a trade union, we are vindicated because we have been raising the alarm around this deal from the moment that Pravin Gordhan made the announcement that the Takatso consortium had been chosen to take over 51% ownership of SAA. And our concerns around this happened really early on because we were already asking questions around the process that was followed, the lack of transparency, the enormous levels of secrecy. And whilst we are very happy that the deal has been terminated, we are deeply dissatisfied with the responses and the explanations given by Pravin Gordhan. We actually are deeply concerned. In fact, I think you are aware that our position towards him is that we have a real problem with the manner in which he conducted himself, which is why as a trade union we're calling for an SIU investigation into the entire deal and particularly into the conduct of Minister Pravin Gordhan.
In fact, he has said that, those who accused him of corrupt dealings around this matter, he's chastised them, saying that, that everything was above board, that there was nothing, untowards with this particular deal. But it becomes very difficult, to side with the minister in this result because of just some of those documentations that we were not able to see. I mean, this in itself was a concern. I mean, he had to be at some point, pressure had to be put towards the minister to say you need to reveal these documentation. And then suddenly a few days later, this deal is now terminated. I mean, so how soon do you think you will then be able to file those application papers to hold somebody at least accountable for this?
Well, I think the issues you're raising are absolutely correct. I mean, let's be frank. Minister Gordhan is dropping this deal because it was about to expose his behavior. It was about to expose the manner in which he had completely flouted standard processes with respect to securing this deal. One of the things that we would like the SIU to look at, for example, is the fact that there was an interview done on one of the broadcast networks, one of your rival networks, with a journalist, Olingani, where Gideon Novick, the founder of Lyft, actually confirms in that interview that they were not the ones who initiated the interaction with the DPE on the purchase of the majority share of SAA. The DPE approached him, and not only did the DPE approach him, he said it was an official from the DPE approached him and encouraged him to connect with the guys at Harris so they could form a consortium that would then be allowed to be given a 51% share of SAA. Hello, alarm bells, red flag, I mean, that in and of itself is deeply questionable. We find it shocking that Minister Pravin Gordhan is shocked that we are calling him corrupt. That is dubious behavior. And we think we deserve to know answers about what that was about. We want to know, for example, he spoke in his press conference about other bidders who were rejected. We want to know on what criteria were they rejected. Because one of the things that came out in an article that was released by the Business Times this week.
Phakamile, can you hear me?
He says, quote,
no, continue, please.
yes, I can hear you clearly. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, perfect.
So in that article of the Business Times, the finance minister says that they have no evidence of proof of funding from Takatso. So an airline, which at one point was worth over 14 billion rand, was being handed over to a consortium with no money. Again, people must really sit and ask themselves deep questions. And this minister cannot just declare in the media that everything was above board. We deserve to know answers. Clearly, there's some deep malfeasance going on with this deal. And as members of the public, we deserve to know. And the reason why we deserve to know is because more than 3,000 jobs were lost in the process of SAA going through this restructuring, so that it could be sold. Workers deserve answers.
And I mean, just yesterday, and to quote him, also concerning was the fact that he said, when he announced the termination of this deal, saying that there is no clear path forward, saying that, in a post-COVID market, a new valuation on the national carrier's worth was made, and it overshot, as you say, Takatso's original 3 billion rands a deal. Another matter, and I want to weigh in on your concerns, are you concerned that the assurances that the minister made that no jobs will be lost and that SAA will in fact and can sustain itself for at least the next 18 months without the reliance on the fiscus?
Well, they would have to guarantee that. In fact, one of the demands that we're making as NUMSA is that the basis upon this deal was founded on the basis that Takatso was going to find 3 billion to fund SAA. So, seeing as it was the DPE that seemingly handpicked Takatso, and now this deal has fallen through, we expect the DPE to find 3 billion rand to keep the SAA running. Because without that money, unfortunately, the future of SAA will be uncertain. This was a guarantee that was made by the department, and as NUMSA and on behalf of all the workers who suffered extreme pain during this process, the least that they can do is to guarantee the survival of this airline now that they stuffed up this deal. And by the way, they shouldn't even have gone this route in the first place. But for us, they made these guarantees, they better find the money. That's our position.